Welcome to Shooting 101. My name is Coach JJ, and I'm going to walk you through the exact process of how to rebuild your jump shot. Whether you're fixing it or you're just starting from nothing and you never learned how to shoot before, you can also use this video. All right. It's going to be A to Z, like what to do on step one, step two, step three, step four. Like it's literally going to be a walkthrough. And so by the end of this, for one, you should understand the entire process of, what it takes to become a shooter, but then you will understand that it's very, very simple, right? Like my goal is to keep this as simple as possible. I don't want to talk about all these extra things that may or may not matter, or you may or may not understand. Now, I do want to tell you this is not going to happen overnight for 99.99% of people, right? You're going to watch this video and then you're going to get excited and you're going to go to the gym, you're going to do the drills, and then 3 days later you're going to be like, I still can't shoot from the three. Still can't make a 3-pointer, right? And so it takes time. It takes time. So just be patient with yourself. Don't rush the process. Just try to enjoy it. And then most importantly, go implement it. Go to the gym and do the things that I'm telling you if you really want to fix your shot. Like I fixed hundreds of jump shots, some of them online, some of them in person. I fixed my own jump shot. Like understand that this process will 100% work for you if you follow it to a T. You can't skip steps. You can't be like, oh, I don't want to do this. I'm going to do it my way. Like just do the things that I'm going to walk you through and you will see the results in the end if you're patient and you just go through the process. All right. So without further ado, I'm just going to get right into it. All right, chapter one, we're going to talk about foot positioning and body positioning. All right, you don't need a basketball for this. You just need some room so you can reach your arms up in the air without hitting the ceiling somewhere. And so that's all you need for this part. All right, so the first thing to understand is your base, right? People think the base is most important, but I semi disagree. I think the hands are most important. You do shoot with your hands at the end of the day. But we are going to talk about the base, all right? Now, what you're taught, right, is okay, both 10 toes to the basket and square up and keep everything like front and center. That's like how a robot shoots. But when you watch actual shooters, a lot of them do not shoot like that. Like 99% of shooters do not shoot with 10 toes to the basket. I think the only person I've seen shoot that way is probably like Jason Tatum, and his elbows like super in. Like he's the only one I've seen with like that sort of form that you're taught as a child. Everyone else shoots completely different, right? And so what I say is your dominant foot. Not what I say, what I've researched and what I've taught and what I've done and what other people do, like the best shooters in the world, is for one, their dominant foot is a little bit in front of their other foot, right? So I'm right-handed, and so my right foot will be a little bit in front. Like you can you don't want it like all the way out here, right? You just want it a little bit in front. And as far as width, I would say shoulders width is solid, right? Like some people are a little bit closer. Like I'm a close foot shooter. Like I like to shoot about right here. Klay Thompson's like a wide foot. He's a little bit wider than most. So you got to figure out, a base that works for you. I think Steph Curry is also a close foot shooter most of the times, like especially when he's on the move. His feet are very close. A lot of great range shooters have closer feet. I think wide shooters don't have as much range 9 times out of 10 from what I've seen personally. And so find, a distance that works for you. And then, to get that right foot up in front or your dominant foot up in front just a little bit. And then I also like to have like a tilt, right? And so if I go 10 toes to the basket and I just put my arm up and I'm aiming it at the rim, I feel a lot of tension in my shoulder. Like you can try it, and just even if you're not at a basket, just try to stand at an imaginary rim and say, okay, this is my basket. I'm gonna point, keep my feet exactly even, all 10 toes to the basket, and then I'm just gonna put my arm up. You guarantee you feel immediate tension in the shoulder, right? And the goal of shooting is to eliminate tension. This is something I'm really good at teaching, especially like in one-on-one setting. I've done it for a few people just to show them, how to release tension in the body so they can shoot smooth and relaxed and be able to make more shots comfortably. And so the way to release that tension is bring that dominant foot up and then tilt your feet slightly to the side of the basket, right? And so you can keep your shoulder up the whole time and then slightly tilt, right? Some people have a bigger tilt than others. I say like, if you're standing on a clock, just go from 12 to about 11 if you're a right-handed player. If you're a lefty, you'll be at about 1 o'clock, maybe a little bit, before that. And so find a tilt that works for you. And you can even like try it. What I would say is do this. Start 10 toes to the basket, put that arm up, and then start naturally fixing that tilt and keep your hands towards the basket and find somewhere. You will eliminate a lot of tension in your shoulder. It won't feel as tight and it's like restrictive. You'll just feel like, okay, it's a little bit more relaxed. And because if you've ever watched people that have never shot a basketball in their life, what is the first thing they do? They literally align their entire arm to the basket like this. Like they do anything to align. and then they do this with their feet all sideways, right? Like that's because it's a natural motion. And so what you want to do is take that natural motion and train it, right? That's all you're doing. Like you don't want to come up with some new thing that's not natural to the body. And basketball is one of the only sports where they think that your feet have to face the target. If you think about other sports like even football, right? How they drop back, they're doing this, and then their feet are over here, but then they're throwing over there. Same thing with baseball. When they're hitting the baseball, their feet are going this way, and but they're swinging, they're aiming out here this way, right? Same thing with golf. Same thing. They're aiming this way, but their feet are pointing this way. And so just because the target is there does not mean your feet need to be exactly there. I think that's just a myth. There's really no other sport that does that. Even bowling, like their feet are a little bit weird. When their feet are like sideways, they're doing like this. Feet are pointing the other way. And so, you know what I mean? Basketball, you can implement that same strategy to release some tension in your shoulder and shoot smoothly, right? And so once you establish your base of like, okay, this is a comfortable, stance for me. I kind of want my feet this wide, and to go before you get into the rest of it, understand shooting is about comfort. So you're gonna hear me talk about comfort all the time, or being relaxed, or releasing tension. That is what this is about. And shooting is purely comfort. That's why everybody does not shoot the exact same, because what's comfortable for someone else is not comfortable for another player, right? And so you got to find what's comfortable for you, while also maintaining some of these fundamental things that you got to do within shooting as a whole, right? And so now that I find this base, I'm gonna put my arm up and I'm gonna find a release point, right? Some people have a release point up here, like a Kevin Durant or a Jokic has a release point up here, like a Larry Bird. Some people have a lower release point, like a Trey Young or a Steph, right? Some people are right in the middle. Some people are to the right. Some people are a little bit to the left. Some people are middle. And so you'll figure it out once you get a basketball in your hands. But just kind of put your arm up, as if you have one, and just find a release point that suits you. What I say, is if you're trying to find something that works, is eyebrow level, roughly. Like you want your thumb above your eyebrow, and so then you can shoot it. It'll be high enough so it's not getting blocked easily, but it's not too high and it's not uncomfortable and stuff like that. And so what I say is put your hand about eyebrow level and find a place that's comfortable for you. And this is the set point. Like this is how you get set on the shot, right? And so from here you could just work on releasing, right? You just work on releasing. And when you release, there's a couple things that I want you to think about, right? So my philosophy is set, lift, follow through. Okay, I think that's like the most basic thing to understand. And so okay, I gotta get set, I gotta lift the ball, and then I gotta follow through, right? That's kind of the sequence you want to follow. um, and so when you get that arm up there, for one, bend your knees just a little bit, okay? And everything has to move at once. Like all of it is one big flow. This is something I learned from Ray Allen. He said like the energy starts in your feet and it gradually just moves its way up into your follow through. And so that's how it should feel. Is like the energy starts there and it just gradually starts to move its way up, and then you release the follow through. All right. And when you do follow through, you want your wrist, like your fingertips are going to be down, like you're snapping your wrist. So if I stand sideways, you can kind of see my wrist right here. All right, I got my fingertips down and my arm is straight, and I'm not like back here, right? Or I'm not like super low. I'm just kind of, at I don't know what degree this is, but it's a comfortable degree to me. So, that's how I think about it. And I bend my knees just slightly, and then as I release as well, I come up on my toes, right? And this is going to help you when you get to the sequence where you need to jump, because you do get to your toes as you jump, and so you always want to do your form shooting. At the end, like come up on your toes with the follow through. And so always start here, and so just do a few of these just to get used to it, right? And everything we do right now is going to be one handed, and then we'll get to two handed, and then we'll combine everything all together. And so that's the very first part. This is the first chapter, is just body positioning and flow, and understanding the set, lift, release. It's just being here and just working on that, just being super comfortable in that. All right. And so once you get this down, then we'll go to the next chapter. All right, this is chapter 2, and this is going to be one hand shooting, and this is just working on the release point and the flow all with one hand. So you're going to need a basketball for this. You don't necessarily need a basket just yet, but you do need a ball for this part. All right, and so the first thing you want to do is do everything that we talked about in the previous chapter, just with the ball, right? That's exactly what this is going to be. And so I'm going to find my footing, right, and be comfortable, and I'm going to lift the ball to my release point. So now that you have the basketball in your hand, your old release point might feel uncomfortable. So you might have been out to the right a little bit and you're like, okay, I don't like this as much. Let me get near the eyebrow or find somewhere comfortable in here. And you should be able to hold the ball without it falling out of your hands like this, right? Like that's the number one goal, is just ball control. You do shoot with your hands, and so you do have to be able to control the ball with your hands. Like at the end of the day, it doesn't matter what they say about the feet and all this other stuff. Control the ball with your hands first and foremost. All right. And so once you find this comfortable release point, all right, you're gonna want to go through the form shots. And now when I do one and I release it, I don't want the ball to go too far in front of me, right? So some people shoot one and it goes like, okay, way out here, and then they got to go chase it down and come back, right? You want to be able to control where the ball goes. And so I'm going to let it land right in front of me. So I'm going to find my positioning, get the ball to my release point, and then I'm just going to release, okay? And that was a little bit far for me, so I got to work on some of my control. All right. And now when it does come to release on the hands, there's one thing I want you to understand, or there's a couple things, right? For one, you want to have your hand a little bit more open, right? Some people, you don't want your hand like, kind of being like here, like open your hand a little bit and get it there, right? Like control the ball. You don't have to like grab on it and like hold it, but you got to have, your hands fairly open so then you can, control where it's going to go. The other thing is the release finger, right? So if I ask people, okay, like one of the things I ask people that can't shoot, I say, what finger do you release with? And sometimes they'll be like, I don't know, I just shoot with like all four or whatever, right? That gives it too much chance to go all over the place if you control with all four fingers, right? Because if it goes with your pinky, like it might go off to the side, or like if it hits your, it's somewhere over there, like especially on these last two, it's gonna go off to the side. And so what I say is you got to choose a middle or you got to choose a pointer, right? I've always been a middle finger shooter, which means like on the final release point is I'm trying to control it, with my middle finger. So if you see my hand, that middle really extends, and I feel like I can aim with that. Like that's kind of my aim, right? And if you read Pro Shooting Secrets, they always talk about the pointer. I've tried pointer. I do like pointer. Like that works as well. But I think for me right now, I like middle just a little bit more. And so what I would say is figure out which one of these is more comfortable, and just like try one. Just like flick the ball in the air and just see which one you feel like you got more control with. And then once you do a few of these, it's like, okay, I like middle. I'm gonna try that. Okay. And then, using those 2 points of keeping your hand open and releasing off a specific finger, whether that be middle or pointer, then you can go into, flow shooting without the basket. Just let it land in front, find that release point, and let it go right there. And you can focus on backspin. It's not super important, but it just kind of lets you know that your release is clean. Like I think backspin is more of a signal. And so, I will say if you are rebuilding your shot or, starting from nothing, I will say think about the backspin. I think it is helpful. It's what I did as a kid. It helped me a lot with my shot. And so right here, whenever you shoot it, just see if you can get a perfect backspin, off that middle finger or pointer finger, whichever one you choose, and just work on that. All right. And one thing I like to do too is if I stand on a line, I try to make it bounce on this line because that lets me know it's going straight as well. So I try to keep it close for control. And then I also want it to land on this line right here. So then I feel like I, have some accuracy. And so when I let it go, okay, there's a little bit left to that line. I might try another one, be right here, let it go, get that clean backspin, and that's the part that we're on right now is just the one hand. All right, so work on that a little bit, and then I'll see you in the next chapter. All right, now on chapter 3, we're going to go into some drills that you can do to maintain accuracy and become more structured as a shooter, and work on your flow and everything like that. And so the first thing you want to do, right, is get to a backboard somewhere. And you can also do this on a wall if you don't have a backboard, but these are just called flips, right? And so what I like to do is I like to be right here, right? I'll find my base and I want it to hit the backboard on the way down. And so I'll let it go up and you see how it like hits the backboard as it drops. That's what you're going for, right? This helps you work on arc. And so you don't have a flat shot. So notice that one was just kind of direct a little bit. I didn't like that one as much, but it helps you with your touch and making sure you're accurate and everything like that, and you can do it on the wall. And you can also, use the side of the backboard. I really like this one because there's less margin for error, so it forces me to be more accurate. If it goes left or right and all that kind of stuff. And so I wanted to hit that, side part on the way down. Like that's my goal when I'm right here. So then I'm working on, just my ball control. Like, ball control is the most important thing when it comes to shooting, because you do have to make sure it goes in the basket. And if you can't control it, then it's 9 times out of 10, it's not going in. Right. And so that's one of the drills that you can do to help you become a shooter. And one of the other things is, I stand right here and I just try to swish it, right? So try that one first. Once you get really good at those flips and control, then you can go right here and you can try to swish it and you'll see how much easier it is, right? And I do the same thing right there. Let it flow up, let it hit. And I always hold my follow through until the ball hits the ground. Like that's my goal every time. So then I just make sure I'm keeping good habits when I'm doing this. But my goal is to swish it and try to be all net every single time, right? And keep track of your streaks. Like this is something that you can do, as a drill all the time, just to calibrate your shot. Even when you do become a better shooter, you can still come back to this all the time. I still do these all the time, right? And so keep a record every day of like, okay, I swished, 14 in a row, and then try to beat that all the time. So that one hit the rim. So then my record would be 3, right? And so now I get back here and it's like, okay, now I got to try to get, more than 3 swishes in a row and just maintain that focus and always have a goal to shoot for. I think that's very, very helpful. And so go to the gym and work on that one hand stuff and do some of those drills. Keep track of your progression. See how many swishes you can get in a row, how many times you can be perfect. And when you also swoosh it, try to also make sure it feels right. So I might get lucky one time. It feels like it came off my hand wrong, but I just happened to swish it. To me, that doesn't count. Like it also has to feel right and it has to swish. And so if you can, I call those perfects. And so I try to do as many perfects in a row as I can. And that's my measure of success as a shooter is not only did I swish it, but did it feel perfect, right? So work on, doing perfects and just see how many you can do in a row and keep track and then try to beat that all the time and see what type of record you can set. So work on this for a while and then I'll see you in the next chapter. All right, welcome to chapter 4. This is a chapter I call Invisible Hand. All right. And what that means is I'm going to use my guide hand, but I'm not going to touch the ball with it, right? We are really close to using both hands on the basketball, but I want you to go through this part first and then we will get to that, right? And so the idea is to make it seem like you are shooting with 2 hands, but maintain that one hand control. Because a lot of times when people start to shoot with 2 hands, that changes their form a lot, right? It's just to switch from 1 hand to 2, it changes the things that they do. And so I want to try to, minimize that effect as much as possible by doing the invisible hand. All right. And so what I do is, or what you should do, is get to this exact set point that you've been working on, right? And then you just want to put your hand near the basketball, right? You don't want to touch it just yet. You just want to put it near the basketball. And if you want to, you can find a place that's comfortable to hold the basketball. Like get to that point and be like, okay, this is probably where I'd hold it. And then take your hand slightly off the ball. Like this will help you get that one hand control without relying on that guide hand as much. All right. And so you can do all the drills that we talked through with this exact same thing, right? Start out in the open, no basket, and just get to the invisible hand, get to your set point, bring that hand up here without touching it, and then just go right there and just work on that. The same thing we did, trying to keep it close, trying to keep it straight on the ground without the basket, right? And the thing I want you to understand about the invisible hand is 2 things, right? For one, when you do release the ball, one of the tricks you can do, this is something I learned in Pro Shooting Secrets, and if you watch the best players in the world, this is something that they do, is they touch their wrist on the release, right? And so they get to this point and they're here, and then when they release it, they get that hand close to the wrist or they touch it, right? And so touch it just to make sure, okay, everything's in line. Because then if it does come off your guide hand slightly weird, it's not going to throw off the accuracy, right? It's not, if you bring it back here, there's a chance, that you moving your hand backwards is going to affect the trajectory of your shot. And so you want to try to touch your wrist with that guide hand so then you can maintain, accuracy and keep everything in line and straight when you do that form. All right. Now, the other thing is, before we actually do get to the guide hand, the thumb. A lot of people talk about the thumb, and I think thumb shooting does not matter. I was a thumb shooter as a kid. Kyrie Irving's a thumb shooter. Steph Curry's a thumb shooter. And then there's great people that shoot without the thumb. Like KD doesn't use his thumb. Klay Thompson doesn't use his thumb. And so I think you can be great with either or. Like, again, shooting is about comfort. And so you can, when you do shoot with two hands, you'll figure out, which one you do naturally. And so don't think about it too much. Don't think, okay, I got to keep my hand completely straight or it's going to mess up my whole shot. Like whether you use the thumb or not, it literally does not matter. Like you don't have to train for it or not. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter. So I just wanted to reiterate that point before we do move on to the next chapter. But when you're doing the invisible hand, just focus on that offhand touching the wrist in this part. All right, so go through that in the open, go through the backboard flips with the exact same thing, getting that offhand close to the wrist. I didn't touch that time. I probably should have. Try to work on your swishes, same thing. Get to that release point, get that hand near the ball, touch your wrist, try to keep it straight, really good ball control. And then once you get comfortable with this, then you can move on. All right, so work on the invisible hand for a little bit, and then I'll see you in the next chapter. All right, welcome to chapter 5, and now we will get into two-hand shooting with both hands on the basketball. The first thing I want you to understand is nothing is going to change. So notice how we started to piece it together little by little, right? Like that is the objective of this video, is to give you all the pieces and the progression so you can understand how it all is put together. When we go to two-hand shooting, do the exact same thing we've been doing, right? We always find our base, right? We get settled in, we find that release point. Once you find that decent release point, now you put your hand on the basketball, right? And some people like their hand like a little bit in front. Some people, like a little bit closer or over here. You got to find somewhere that's decently comfortable for you. I don't recommend necessarily putting your hand right here. Like if you can do this, especially if you're watching this and you're trying to rebuild your shot, try to get it on the side somewhere, right? I like my hand about right here. This is comfortable for me. And once I get to this, then I shoot it out in the open, right? And so I was gonna switch that one, but I still want you to go through those drills that we did. Right, start out in the open, no basket, so you don't focus so much on the makes. And that's the thing that I want you to take away from this is it's not about the make or miss. It's more about the process. If you follow the process, the makes will come. Like you got to get through the misses to get to the makes. But I like people starting out in the open, so then it doesn't even cross their mind whether they made it or missed it. They're just focused on the process and what they're supposed to be doing. Right, so I'll get to this, find my set point, put my hand on the basketball, and then I'll release, and I'll try to keep that follow through. And on these ones, let the ball bounce twice. So then you can really check that form and make sure everything is in line. You can see the backspin. Was the backspin decent? The backspin is a signal of a clean release. Did it go straight? Where did it go? Okay, it went a little bit to the left. Did I feel comfortable? Was there any tension? Like those are the things you want to pay attention to when you're doing this, so you can kind of calibrate where you want to be at. But just start out in the open. That one was a little bit to the right for me, so that I know that I'm like, okay, let me try to adjust it, make it more straight. And so notice my thinking isn't on make or miss. My thinking is, did I shoot it too far? Is it left or right? So then I can adjust from there, right? It's more about control and in what direction it's going. So then if I dial those things in, then I know if I try to shoot it in the basket, it's probably going to go in more times than not if I can control the minor details out in the open, right? And so now that you get comfortable with that, go straight to the backboard flips, right? Get right here, get that solid base, find that set point, get two hands on the basketball, and try to hit the backboard on the way down, right? That's the next one. And so work on those. That one is horrible. After you get done with the backboard flips, then you can go to those swishes, right? You can go right here, find that set point, get your hand, find that swish, right? And make sure everything feels comfortable. Try to maintain that discipline with, keeping your guide hand close to your wrist and touching it. So, so then everything's in line. Maintaining that flow that we talked about where the energy starts in your feet and then it gradually, one smooth motion all the way to your shot. Like you want to start to remember those things, all the time, because that's going to be the foundation of your shot. And those things will start to happen without you needing to think about it. And so that's why it's so particular of knowing what to focus on at first. So then you focus on it so much that it becomes muscle memory and it becomes automatic. So then when you get in the game, you don't even think about it because you can't necessarily think about your form when you're in the game. You got to think about the defense and do you have the space to get your shot off and all that other kind of stuff. You can't think about technique. You want your technique to be ingrained into your body's muscle memory. And so then when you do go to shoot it, it does everything properly based on how you've practiced before. All right. And so understand, again, shooting is about comfort more than it is about how it looks. Like everyone's looks similar, but no one is exactly the same. And so when you go through the two-hand shooting, find that comfort place. Figure out what works for you and what has the least amount of tension when you are shooting the basketball, and work on that for a little bit, and then I'll see you in the next chapter. Welcome to chapter 6, and this is all about shooting flow. All right, so I'm not going to re-explain everything that we talked about before, but know that it does matter in this, right? And so now we're going to start, like, this is going to look like your real shot. All right, and so how it's going to work is you're going to do everything that we talked about before, right? You're going to get to that release point, you're going to get your base, get to the release point, get that hand placement. Once you get the hand placement, bring the ball down, right? And you don't have to bring it like super low or, right here under your chin. Like find like a mid-level, like right around the stomach area, is solid for me. And this is where you want to be. But notice it's based off how I originally held it at my set point. So I find the comfort here of like, okay, I like this release. Now I go down here and then I do everything that we worked on. So I shoot it out in the open. I should do the backboard flips, I do the swishes, and the things you want to remember in this is one smooth motion, right? So notice it's you get to that set point, right? And then when you're here, it's set, lift, release, right? That's your sequence. Don't never forget that sequence, right? You get right here to that release point, you get that hand placement, bring the ball down, get comfortable. Now you're set, then you lift, then you release. All right, that's what you're working on in this chapter, right? And include all the elements that we talked about before. I'm not going to overtalk them, right? Touch your wrist, make sure the flow is good, holding that follow through. What finger are you releasing with? All that stuff still matters when you're working on this. And so don't lose sight of that in this chapter, right? But now you can get right here and then work on that swish. So you lift it, and now you got a real jump shot coming along, right? That's what it looks like when you actually shoot it. And I don't want you to get to this part just yet. Like you'll get to just starting from here in a little bit, but I want to maintain, the practice habits that we built of, finding that good set point and that solid base, and then getting to your set or release point, sorry, not set point. The release set point and release point. That's different. So I don't know if I made the distinction earlier. Your set point is where you catch or hold it at, and then the release point is where you lift it to, and then you release. All right. So set point and release point. Understanding those two different things, right? Now the path of the basketball, you don't have to do it a certain way. Like a lot of people are like, has to be perfectly on your dominant side and all the way over here. I feel like that's restrictive and uncomfortable, right? You lift it how you lift it. Katie likes to lift on the left a little bit. Steph lifts in the middle. Kyrie used to lift in the middle. He's changed it to the right now. I think Klay Thompson lifted on the right a little bit. I personally think the best shooters, the most optimal ones, lift it through the middle of their body. Like I think it's most comfortable for me. The shooters that I've studied, the best ones, I think they lift from the middle as well. And so find something that works for you and don't overthink it, right? Don't overthink it. Okay, I got to move the ball like this or this. Just get it to the set point. It's going to get there how it's going to get there, right? And so it's not going to be that bad, I promise you. And like if you look from here, if I turn sideways, I go here. If I just lift it, it gets there how it gets there. Like it's not necessarily a big deal, right? Because the lift path does change in the game. Like sometimes you got to lift it over here to avoid a reach, or when you pick it up at your left hand, like you might have to do one of these, so the lift point varies. And so right now, when you do this, just find something super comfortable. Don't overthink it. Just get to that set point, get to that release point and let it go. And when you work on this, the thing you want to avoid is having a hitch. And so a lot of people say, what's a hitch, right? It's when you lift the ball and it's like, okay, pause, and then you kind of like shoot it awkwardly. Like this, the set point is the beginning of your shot. Everything else just flows, right? You can be one motion or two motion. It doesn't really matter. Like I used to be a two motion shooter. I still am a two motion shooter, to be honest. I think people with longer arms are two motion shooters, like a KD or like a Jokic. They're two motion shooters. People with shorter arms or the people that are a little bit smaller, 9 times out of 10, they're one motion, like a Steph Curry or like a Trae Young or something like that. And so don't be too particular about it. Just be comfortable. Comfortable is the word. Never forget that. And so, work on that, get to this point, and then after you work on, this part and you bring it down and then you bring it back up, you should have a good idea of where your set point is, right? And so if you want, after you do that a few times, now you can just go directly to the set point. right? So you found, okay, I usually set it about right here. I know how I want my hands. Get set, lift, release. Like that's all you're thinking about. Set, lift, release, right? And then try to get those swishes. Set, lift, release. That's your sequence, right? And you can, and what I would say is just make sure it's smooth. Just focus on smoothness, right? Just get here and then say, okay, I'm just going to be smooth. Smooth doesn't mean one motion, right? So Katie's a two motion, but he gets to this and then he just releases it and it's still smooth, right? So figure out if you want to do two motion or one motion. Maybe try them both, see what's comfortable for you, and then just go with that. Like whatever's the most comfortable, go with that. I cannot stress that enough because when you're out there and you start to extend your range, you have to be comfortable and relaxed for your shot to be, accurate and feel natural. Does that make sense? And so work on this for a little bit and then I'll see you in the next chapter. Welcome to chapter 7. In this chapter, I'm going to talk about shooting speed, extending your range, also known as range calibration, if you ever hear me say that, and then progression and regression. All right. And so the first thing I'm going to talk about is shooting speed, right? So all the things we did before was fairly slow, right? Like we were just kind of like here. We were like, okay, lift, shoot it. But you can't necessarily shoot that slow all the time, especially when it comes to a game, right? And so once you get to a point of comfort and you know what your release point is and your set point, and you know if you're going to be a one motion or a two motion and all these different things and your accuracy is fairly dialed in, right? Now you want to work on the speed of it, right? And so now you want to get here and it's like, okay, how fast can I get from my set point to my follow through, right? Set, lift, follow through. That's what you're thinking about. And so you get right here and now try to do that as fast as you can, right? Or just gradually speed it up over time. I think the first try, just go as fast as you can. Like get to a point right here. It's like, okay, I've been shooting slow. Now let me just go fast, right? And it's going to be a little bit uncomfortable at first. Like it's going to be a little bit awkward, but you will figure out how to make it work, right? And so the goal of this is so when you do actually need to shoot in the game and you start working out like a real shooter, the speed is dialed in, right? And you're going to have to go through the motions on other stuff too. Like when you get out here, you're going to want to start a little bit slower. And then, especially in a catch and shoot, like their first catch and shoot, you can catch it and you can go a little bit slower, just get used to catching and shooting. But you do want to work on that shooting speed, even when it comes down to this area and just starting on your form shot. And it's like, okay, I'm going to shoot fast and just see, can I shoot fast or not? Is it comfortable? Is it uncomfortable? Just kind of go through that process of shooting a little bit faster. So then, when it comes time to start making this stuff translate to a game, it becomes a lot easier, right? And so then the next point, what I wanted to go into is the progression and the regression. You can progress and regress with speed as well, right? And so let's say I did a couple, and I was like, okay, let me just shoot as fast as I can. And let's say it's uncomfortable, right? Let's go back to going slow. So go right back to the spot, and it's like, okay, let me do some slow ones, get comfortable again. Once you feel more comfortable, go back to going fast and go back and forth between those until they start to feel, somewhat similar. Like that's what you should do with this. And then when it also, I mentioned earlier, when it comes to progression and regression, you can regress or progress on all of these things, right? Even when it comes to the range, which let me go into the range and I'll come back to the regression and stuff like that. When it comes to the range, it's the same test, right? It's like, okay, how far back can I go without jumping before it feels uncomfortable? Wherever you can go and shoot without jumping and it feels uncomfortable, if you go one step in from that and it is comfortable, that's your range, right? And so right now, I don't know if I can go back here and do a 3, right? But if I can shoot this 3 without jumping and it doesn't feel like a force, so I shot that one, it was off, but it didn't feel like a force, right? And so if it doesn't feel like you're shoving the ball or like you got to change your form in order for it to get there, that's your range. So then I would go one step back and I'll say, okay, can I do this one, naturally without jumping? If not, then that's not my range. That's not where I can shoot from comfortably. And so the way to calibrate it and the way to see, how far you can shoot is just to test it, right? And so if you're restarting your jump shot, you probably can barely make it to the free throw line right now. Like that's just how it is when you restart your jump shot. You're building it from nothing. And so don't rush the range, but every day test your range, right? And so you might have been right here for a while, and like once that one feels comfortable, I would say just do 2 and then take a step back. So if I shoot 2 from here, I'm gonna go 1 step back, and it's like, okay, let me see how that one feels. Okay, that one feels pretty good. Let me go get my rebound. Then I'll go a step back from that spot. Now I'll be back here, and I'll just keep doing that until I get uncomfortable, right? I'll go as far back as I need to until I get uncomfortable and I can't do it anymore without jumping, and it feels like a force, right? And then when you take one step in back into the comfort zone, that is where you want to practice. From that spot and in is where you want to practice majority of the time. And then at the end of your workout, you want to do what I call range calibration, right? And this is how you extend your range, right? It's going between that uncomfortable spot and the comfortable spot, right? And so let's say it feels awkward from behind the free throw line, right? Let's say I can't shoot from here and it feels like, it feels like a force and I'm airballing. But right here, I'm good. I can go 1 step in front and everything feels good. What you want to do is you do 2 and 2, right? Or 3 and 2. You do 3 from this place that's comfortable. After you do 3 of those in a row, then you go back into the spot where it's kind of awkward and you do 2. Make or miss. You just do 2. Then you go back, you do 3, you go back, you do 2. And when you do that so many times, eventually this spot feels exactly like this spot. And now you've extended your range 1 step. And then you just do that over and over. So now, a week later, you're like, okay, now I'm back in this spot. And now this spot's good. This is a spot I used to not be able to do my form shooting from, but now I can. But now, can you do it from here? And now, if not, you do the same exact process from there to there. You just keep going 3 comfortable, 2 uncomfortable, and you just keep going back and forth until this starts to feel good. And then same exact thing. You just keep doing that over and over. Next thing you know, you can be back here. So I think I can do 3s, right? And I can make it comfortable and it doesn't feel like a force. Yeah. So that one, I drilled it, didn't feel like a force at all. So now if I go back, I don't think I can do back here just yet without it feeling like a force. So that was a little bit of a force, a little bit, right? Maybe not much. And so that would be my calibration. I'd go here to here every day until I can start to extend my range. And so when it comes to wrap it up with progression and regression, you can always go forward and backwards within the process. Go forward and backward in the range. You can go forward and backwards in the speed of your shot, and then also the drills. So maybe you're not comfortable with this again, then you can go back to okay, let me just start here and do these, right? Or let me do the invisible hand, or let me do the one hand, right? You can go forward and backward through all of that, and you can progress and regress through all of that. But work on this, work on the speed, work on the range for a little bit, and then the next one we'll get into the drills, and I'll see you then. Welcome to chapter 8, and in this chapter, I'm going to give you a form shooting workout that you can do. And so this is something you can do after you've gotten through everything and you feel like your shot feels decent. You might not have the range just yet, but you just kind of need a workout to do. And so this is the workout. I'm going to teach you how to go through all of them. All right, so the first one is just regular form shooting, 25 swishes. So every single spot is going to be 25 swishes. And so I'm going to get right here, and then I'm gonna swish it, and I'm gonna try to go to 25. So if it hits that rim, does not count. All right, so that's the first one. Then I'll go to the side, and I'll go outside these lane lines right here. Same exact thing, 25 both sides. So I'll do 25 swishes on that side. After I get done with that, I'm gonna get over here, 25 swishes on this side. All right. Then after you do that, you're going to go back to the middle, and wherever your form shooting spot was at, you're going to back up just a little bit, and it's going to be roughly between, if you look at the hash marks here on the side, this first hash, so there's a block and then there's a hash, there's the first hash and the second hash, you want to be right in between there. So you might have a volleyball line in that spot depending on what type of gym you're in, or you just kind of have to guess the range, or wherever you started form shooting at, just take 2 steps back, and then that's where you'll go from. And then you want 25 swishes from there, right? And then you want to go between the block and the first hash, and you want to go off the backboard. And these ones cannot hit the rim as well. So it's backboard and net only, no rim. And so same thing, going to 25. So that one hit the rim, so that one doesn't count. All right, but after I get my 25 all net over there off the backboard, I'm gonna go to the other side and I'm doing the exact same thing right here off the board. All right, that was a good one. And then I want to go to extending my range after that. So after that mini workout of 25 swishes, which is one spot, two, three, back to the middle, four, off the backboard, five, off the backboard, six. So that's 6 different spots, 25 swishes. That's 150 swishes in total. After I do that, I'm going to do the range calibration drill, right, that we talked about in the last chapter. So I'm going to figure out a space where I can swish 2 or swish 3, right? So I missed one, but on these I have to swish 3 before I move backwards. All right. So let's say I'm at the edge of my range right here. All right, I switch 3. Then once I switch 3, I can take a step back, right? And then I take my step back, I switch 3, and eventually I'm gonna find a point where it's uncomfortable. And then for, I would say, 15 minutes, go through range calibration. And so you just keep, so wherever, that last spot where we did the form shooting, you go one step back from there, and that's where you start the calibration at. Like you swish your 3, then you step back, swish your 3, step back, swish your 3 until you find that uncomfortable spot. And then once you find that uncomfortable spot, 15 minutes of range calibration, and that is going to be your form shooting workout. And so do that every single day, and if you want, you can always warm up with the one hand stuff and just get loose and all that kind of stuff. Do your form shooting workout every single day. Like, this is the thing that's going to help your jump shot go over the top and be more consistent and feel like you can actually shoot it for real, right? And when you're doing the range calibration as well, add in some speed calibration. Like maybe switch 2 regular, but the last one has to be quick. So the first 2, you can just do normal speed, and then that last switch, it's like, okay, I got to shoot a little bit faster. So that one is way off, right? And so it's a little bit different. I should have probably warmed up before I did this, but it's a little bit different, when you come in and you go back faster, but you also want to calibrate that as well, right? And just work on that shooting speed. And so, try to work those in there, but that is the full form shooting workout. Do that workout every single day, and then I'll see you in the next chapter. Welcome to chapter 9, and this is game shooting. All right, and so when it comes to this, I'm going to add a little bit of movement and some footwork. And so this is going to be the thing that actually translates to the real live situations, right? You're not just always going to be standing there, stand still, and be able to shoot a shot like that, right? And so you got to be able to figure out, okay, how am I going to make this translate into the game and actually shoot at game speed? I'm about to show you right now. All right, and so the first thing you want to think about is there's only 2 ways you're going to shoot it: on the catch, on the dribble. That's it, right? You're either going to get a pass from someone else, or you're going to shoot it on the dribble after doing a move or after going somewhere, right? And so right now, let's focus on just the catch. And there's 2 different, or technically there's 3 different types of footworks, right? There's left, right, and then when you catch, there's right, left, and then there's hop, right? You might hop and then shoot it from there. And so those are the different types of footworks when it comes to catching and when it comes to off the dribble as well. And so the first thing I want you to focus on is just being in that catch ready stance, which is a shooting stance. And the foot I'm going first with is going to be my left on this one, right? And so I'm going to go left, and that first step is always the catch. And so I'm imagining, like, do this literally without the basketball right now, like how I'm doing it. I catch on the left, I get set with the right foot, and then I lift and I follow through. All right. And so that's the thing that I'm thinking about right now is I'm just working on that. Catch, follow through. And when that second foot hits, so when I catch on here, when my second foot comes up for balance, that is my trigger for my shot to start. Does that make sense? And so it's going to be a little bit awkward at first. Like, you might have to get set first after the movement and then let it go. But eventually you want it all to blend together. This is what I call stringing your game together. I remember having to teach someone this a long time ago. They went on to play professional basketball. They still do, actually, in different countries and stuff like that. But I was teaching him when he was shooting how to string his game together. And so part of it is being able to move and have steps trigger your jump shot, right? And so that's what we're working on right here is catch, trigger, and then let it go. All right. And so now when it comes to shooting with the basketball, you want to self pass. And if you never self pass, it's just flip the ball so it comes back. So I just spin it, it comes back to me. That's self pass. And so when you do this, you want to work on self pass, right? And you can start a little bit closer to the rim so you can catch some rhythm. But all I'm gonna work on is left, right. I'm gonna work on, catching it and then going into that release point. And so I'm starting a little bit slow, right, before I actually get into it, is I'm just working on the catch and the movement. And then once I get it down, then I can go a little bit faster. All right, and I can make sure everything starts to blend together. That second step, with my right foot, I wanted to trigger my jump shot. So I'm going catch, and then I'm triggering, I'm going into it. All right, and you don't have to go full speed just yet. Go through progression, go through regression. Maybe try it fast and be like, it's not comfortable. Then go back a little bit slower. Don't be afraid to go back and forth and figure out, how to practice this thing, because eventually you will get good at it. It's not going to look perfect while you're at practice. That's the point of practice, is to go through the whole thing. And so do left, right footwork, same thing. Now I'm going right, left, and I'm going through that. All right. Now that one was a little bit quick, right? I went full. I didn't go full, but that was quicker for me. I tried to blend it all together. But if you have to do this and just work on that rhythm, like, that's okay. There's literally nothing wrong with that, And then once you get used to it, then it's like, okay, as soon as I touch it, I'm going through everything right here. Let it go. All right. It's completely okay to do that and mess with the speeds of both footworks. And then the hop, same thing. So I didn't do the hop with no ball. I've never been a hop shooter personally. It's a little bit uncomfortable for me, but I might work on, okay, hop. I'll just work on that, no ball. Hop, right here. And I try to stay, on the balls of my feet. I try to keep my heels off the ground on these, to trigger a quick release. But then I'll self pass, hop. And as soon as your feet hit the ground, you want to start that motion. All right. And I don't know if you could tell from me, that was uncomfortable. I'm not a hop shooter at all. Like, I've never been a hop shooter. I've never understood it personally. Especially when I was a kid, I was always a 1-2 guy. I copied a lot of what Kobe did. Kobe is a 1-2 guy. And so I based my whole game off 1-2. But if you want to shoot quick, the hop is the way to go. Like, that's for quick release. And so it just takes some time to practice, and just work on it. Self pass, hop into it. As soon as those, so now both feet on the hop, both feet hitting is the signal now. So now when I go, bam, I'm immediately going into, my jump shot. And try to remain relaxed on these, right? Don't try to rush it. Try to just remain relaxed and smooth. Still think about the details that we worked on, keeping that follow through in line, which I don't think I did on that one. Keeping my left hand in line. But work on those, on the catch. And then the next thing is just off the dribble. So everything's exactly the same. You're literally just dribbling, right? And so the way it works for this is, if I'm dribbling with my left hand, my right foot is first. So I'm going here, settle, and then go into my jump shot. All right. And then once you get used to that, you speed that up. Then if I want to dribble with my right hand, it's left foot first. Now I dribble right next to my foot. So I'm here, get set, and then I'm lifting and I'm releasing. All right. And so that's the sequence for that. Same thing for the hop. One of these 2 feet got to go first on the hop. And so it's the dribble, and it's going to be like that. All right. So if I'm facing the camera so you can get a good angle, if I dribble with my left hand, my right foot's going to go first. After this dribble, I'm hopping, right? If you want to implement that off the dribble. All right. Same thing, my right hand. If I dribble right hand, left foot goes first, hop, shot. Right? And so all that happens fast. So it's not a travel. I know I did it slow, kind of looks like one. But if I want to go to my hop, I just go here, and then I hop and I shoot. And it's so uncomfortable for me to hop. I've never been a hop shooter. I'm trying it right now for you guys. So, for the sake of this, it's not too bad, but that's something you can use. So maybe you come off the screen, you hop, and that helps you. Now I think hop is the quickest for off the catch, but I think 1-2 is quicker for off the dribble, right? Because you don't know that I'm gonna go. If I attack super hard and then my foot plants and I just go up, like, that feels kind of sudden. I messed up the net. Let me fix that. That feels kind of sudden, right? But if I attack super hard and I hop, a smart defender can kind of see that. If I go and then I hop a little bit, it kind of subconsciously triggers the defender to know, oh, he's shooting because he hopped, right? But then if I know that they know, then I might get him with a pump fake because they thought I was going to shoot it. it's a chess match within that. But I think a 1-2 off the dribble is a lot quicker. So then once you get used to that, then just practice it with some speed. So I take my one dribble and then I go up. I was off balance on that one. Still made it. But I was off balance, right, on those. And you can make it more attack-like. Like when you attack, like you really attack, and then you kind of go there, like work on those. Now in that one, I wasn't very fundamental. I brought my hands back. I didn't hold my follow through. I didn't have any, sense of balance. When you master the rules, then you can break them. So if you ever seen Steph like do one of these, like, okay, you don't necessarily want to do that until you've mastered, this, right? So he's a master at that. Then he can break the rules. But when you do off the dribble, make it game like get into an attack, and then 1-2, get that shot, right? Same thing with my right. Make it game like, get right here, take that dribble, 1-2, try to backboard for that. That was horrific. And same thing with the catch and shoot on the self pass, right? Like self pass it to yourself, and run, and then left, right, and then get that shot off and work on that, right? And so now you start to see the full progression of everything. Like think about where we started, and now we're in game shooting, right? And so, when you go through this, remember all the things that we talked about with the flow and trying to keep your follow through in line. And if any of this game shooting stuff feels uncomfortable, you already know what to do. Just regress, go backwards, see back there, where you can tweak some things, maybe work on some speed and just a standstill, and then come back here and do this stuff slow. Maybe just go slow. Here, okay, here, get my footwork, and then speed that up over time. Right? And so never forget those things, as you go throughout that. All right. So work on the game shooting, work on the footwork a little bit, and I'll see you in the next chapter. So welcome to chapter 10, the last chapter. This is the end of shooting 101. Like I've been wanting to remake this video for so long. The old one was from like 2020, I think 2019, something like that. And so now I got a mic, I got good sound, it looks good. I don't wear goofy glasses. I don't have no hair no more. But I really do appreciate you taking the time to watch this video. And, mentally when you approach this, just be patient with yourself and never forget these core teachings. Like never forget where shooting comes from and the core of it. Because when you remember all these details and okay, let me do some one hand, invisible hand stuff, or take my time on some of these things and get some swishes in, like you will always have a good jump shot. And like having a good jump shot and going through the process of creating a good shot is 100% worth it. And so if you're watching this right now and you're like, I don't know if I want to rechange my shot or build it, it's worth it, man. It's worth it. Being able to shoot in the game is worth it. There's nothing better than be able to have confidence in your shot in the game all the time. Like nothing better. And so it might be a little tedious, it might be annoying, it might be frustrating, but just go through it. Just fight it and go through it and just do what's required and do the process. I built this. I know it works. I've used it on myself. I've used it on students in real life, in person. I fixed jump shots. I built jump shots. I've really done this thing for a lot of people. And so I know this video is going to work for you if you actually follow it step by step. All right. So be patient with yourself. And when in doubt, just copy the greats, man. Like one way you can accelerate this is watch people that are great at shooting and figure out a style that's similar to yours or someone you think, okay, I can kind of shoot like that. Let me model a little bit of what they do. Because the person you watch the most is the person you will shoot like. I watched so much Kobe as a kid that I ended up shooting like it, like genuinely, like down to the fadeaway and by the one dribble pull-ups, catch and shoot, like everything just looked like how his looked because I watched him so much. And so watch really good shooters, whether it's Steph or Dame or Clay or KD or whoever, Con Knipple, and just copy some of their things and figure out what they do and try to emulate it. Like how would it feel to shoot like them? If you do that, it will accelerate the process. All right. And so I appreciate you watching this. Leave a comment, please. Like if you just found this and you're like, oh yes, thank you, or you've gone through the process and you come back to this video and you leave a comment. I'm really appreciative of all the feedback, and I really want to know if this was worth making, because I do want to make more stuff like this. And so leave a comment if you can. I'm really grateful that you're watching this video right now. I got people from all over the world that follow my pages, and so I'm grateful for every last one of you. So thank you. And maybe I'll build more, and I'll see you in the future. So